So, imagine this. What happens when a military sniper has a known terrorist dead to rights in his crosshairs? A guy perfectly matching a highly specific intelligence briefing, but the chain of command literally orders him to stand down. It's an absolutely chilling question, right? Well, today we're going to dive into a source document that attempts to answer exactly that by mapping out one of the most tragic military events in modern history.
Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're conducting a forensic audit of the catastrophic events at Abbey Gate in Kabul, Afghanistan, back in August 2021. Now, just to be clear up front, we are remaining completely impartial here. Our goal is simply to map out the minute-by-minute claims presented in this source material, taking a really dense web of intelligence reports and congressional testimony and breaking it down into a clear chronological sequence. All right, let's dive into this ticking clock. The source document argues forcefully that the tragedy at Abbey Gate wasn't just some unpredictable accident lost in the so-called fog of war. Actually, it asserts that this was a meticulously tracked sequence of events, from abandoning Bagram Air Base in July all the way to the horrific detonation on August 26th. The source claims every single step of this disaster was completely visible to the chain of command. To really understand the climax, the source insists we have to rewind to early July and the strategic decision to abandon Bagram Air Base.
The tactical contrast the document highlights here is, well, it's night and day. On one side, you have Bagram Air Base. It's heavily fortified, incredibly defensible, and boasts two massive 12,000-foot runways. Oh, and a trauma hospital. On the other side, Hamid Karzai International Airport. This is a single-runway civilian airport completely stuck in a chaotic city, literally surrounded by overlooking high-rises. The source argues that by abandoning Bagram in the dead of night, the military forced this massive, desperate evacuation through a highly dangerous urban bottleneck. Which brings us to the direct consequence of that decision, the escaped executioner. Enter Abdul Rahman al-Logari, a known high-level ISIS-K operative. And guys, the tragic irony presented in the document here is just staggering. See, al-Logari had actually been captured by U.S. forces and locked up in the Parwan detention facility, which was right there at Bagram. But when Bagram was abandoned, the prison was just left unguarded. So on August 15th, the Taliban swept in, threw open the gates, and let everyone out. Think about that for a second. According to the source, the U.S. built the prison, caught this specific bomber, abandoned the locks, and essentially allowed the executioner to just walk free. As we move into late August, the document shifts to what it calls the escalating threat matrix. So, on the evening of August 25th, the U.S. Embassy in Kabul issues a highly unusual, ultra-specific alert. It read, quote, "Because of security threats outside the gates, we are advising U.S. citizens to avoid airport gates. Leave immediately from Abbey Gate." The document is quick to emphasize that embassies simply do not issue named gate warnings like that without absolute, rock-solid intelligence. For the sourcer, this proves beyond a doubt that the government had pinpoint foreknowledge of exactly where an attack was going to happen. This brings us to perhaps the most harrowing piece of evidence in the source material, the sniper's confession. Let's set the scene on the morning of August 26th. The Marines stationed at Abbey Gate received a specific briefing, a BOLO, describing an imminent suicide bomber. Fast forward a bit, between 1:30 and 2 p.m., Sergeant Tyler Vargas-Andrews is looking through his sniper scope into this massive chaotic crowd, and he spots a man fitting the description perfectly. The guy's acting erratically, he's with an associate, it all lines up. The sniper immediately contacts his command post, urgently requesting permission to engage. He actually calls his battalion commander up to the tower to verify the target. And here is Vargas-Andrews' sworn congressional testimony about what happened next. Quote, "Our battalion commander said, 'I don't know.' Plain and simple, we were ignored. Our expertise was disregarded." Just pause and let the gravity of that sink in. The sniper had the suspected bomber right there in his crosshairs, but leadership flat out refused to make a decision. So the crucial question is why? Why the hesitation? Well, the document argues that it had absolutely nothing to do with a lack of tactical awareness. Instead, it was political rules of engagement and optics that completely paralyzed the military chain of command. The claim here is that Washington was terrified of the optics of a U.S. sniper shooting a man in a crowd on international TV. Because of that political fear, the source argues, the tactical survival of the Marines standing in that sewage canal was overwritten. The sniper was forced to stand down and watch the suspect slip right back into the sea of people. Which tragically leads us to the climax of this timeline. 1736 local time, the detonation. Hours after that sniper was denied his shot, the inevitable occurred.
At approximately 5:36 p.m. local time, the man identified by the source as Abdurrahman al-Logari detonated a 20-pound explosive vest packed full of ball bearings. That blast tore through the concrete corridor. It claimed the lives of 13 U.S. service members and roughly 170 Afghan civilians. Just an absolutely devastating, incalculable loss of life. Finally, the document pivots to summarize its core thesis, what it calls a final verdict. Now, what's really compelling about the source's argument is how it connects the dots into a grim, step-by-step indictment. Think about it. The administration freed the bomber by abandoning Bagram. Intelligence agencies actively tracked him. The State Department warned civilians to flee Abbey Gate. And yet, military command ordered those Marines to hold the gate anyway. And when a sniper finally aimed his rifle at the suspect, he was denied permission to shoot. According to the document, this wasn't just a tragic accident. It was a completely preventable, bureaucratic failure. So we are left with this massive, deeply unsettling question posed by the source material. If military intelligence truly tracked the bomber minute by minute, was the Abbey Gate massacre actually the unpredictable fog of war, like we were officially told? Or was it a preventable sacrifice made just to accommodate a political timeline? It's a heavy question for sure, but one the source insists we have to ask if we want real accountability. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer.